So, of course, we're gearing up for our Heart for the House season again. So some people would say, like, we have a great location. Florence is awesome. Why open up another location? Why go to Cincinnati?
Yeah, I mean, when we named the church years ago, again, we've always believed that identification or identity follows vision. And our vision was to be a regional church. Our vision was to reach the Cincinnati, Kentucky, Indiana, the tri-state region. We never said we're going to let the shoe tell the foot how big it can get. Like, that's not just the way you do it. The DNA, the genetics, whatever God's put in us, that potential is there. Our job is to not say what we should do or shouldn't do. Our job is to say, someday we'll stand before God. Did we do all we could with the giftings, the natural abilities, the blessings, the influence? What did God give us? Did we do all we could with it? And now we're looking back on Cincinnati and we're like, man, thank God we took that step, because it's been supernatural, and the hand of God's been on it all the way. It's absolutely been effective.
So when you talk about Save the Storks was one of the initiatives that we obviously wanted to focus on this year to minister to abortion vulnerable women. Why do you feel like that's important?
I mean, there's a bunch of reasons for me, but one of the biggest things that I've just always struggled with, maybe because I didn't grow up in church, I've always struggled with this, these moral statements that enrage people. And I'm all for the moral statements. Abortion is murder. It's wrong. It's horrific. But it is also a real choice that women make. And it's a real choice that they can legally make. And it's a difficult choice. And they're in a very, very tough position. And a lot of times they make the wrong choice because of the resources that are available to them. So what are we doing? What can we do? What can we actually do? And so the Stork Bus was an idea that I'd been kind of playing around with. I'd heard about it through a family in the church. And again, we didn't know that it would be something we could execute this last year. We thought it'd be a 2022 goal. But because of the generosity of several people, of course, everybody that gave, it helped the whole thing move forward. Sometimes you can't overly focus on this, but 2 people came to me and said, one gave $200,000, another person gave $75,000, because they wanted to see that happen right away. So we were able to give the $50,000 to CareNet Pregnancy, just to kind of positively in that relationship, and we're able to buy that Stork Bus. So I know that through this Stork Bus, through all the studies, that it's 9 out of 10 girls that walk onto this bus will choose life. All we did was provide a resource that leans the other way. However, they have to know that resource is out there. You have to give them another resource. In a confusing, difficult time, the enemy's going to take advantage of that. So, but the church can be there, be a light. Heck,
that's so good. So when you talk about with obviously God behind bars, so why do you feel like it's important to focus on those that are incarcerated?
There's some basic things that the church is called to do. And one of those things is Jesus said, I was in prison and you didn't come see me, you didn't come visit me. And the reference there is, to keep focused on the broken, to keep focused on the disenfranchised, to reach the people that no one else is willing to reach. And somebody's going to be there with some kind of message when someone is at that kind of a bottom. And most people don't come to Jesus when all their needs are being met and life is great and relationships are wonderful and everything is working out in their life. That's, because life is providing what Jesus ultimately is called to provide for us, right? But when life robs you of all the comforts and advantages and blessings and relationships, and you lose it all and you have nothing, and you're forced to face yourself, those are the places that Jesus does his greatest work to me. And so we want to be there. We want to be in the prison. We want to be in that prison cell. We want to be there. We want to let them know God's not done with them. We want to let them know that God can forgive and restore, and that their past shouldn't have the final say. And so because of God behind bars, we can go and we can have a real church in these prisons. I mean, why would you not do that? For $100,000.
Wow.
$100,000, you can go have real church in a prison. Some of these prison things reach hundreds and hundreds of prisoners every single week while we're in our church service. It's being streamed. They're worshiping with us. Wow. They're saying amen with us. They're getting saved when people at our church are getting saved. I mean, that's all happening in real time. They're having real church while we're having real church. Why would you not, link arms with somebody like that to reach not some distant place? These are prisons in our backyard. So yeah, it's a beautiful opportunity, but yeah, excited about it.
So in terms of Eshkol is it's a particular area, obviously region in Israel, who faces bombings. These are families that live there, and of course, we have that trauma center. How did that relationship come about, and why do you feel like it's important that we focus on that particular area?
Well, the whole world has its eyes on Israel constantly, and for the most part, the whole world hates Israel, and consider Israel the problem, Israel the troublemaker, Israel this, and of course we know that that's spiritual.
Yeah.
We know that the devil hates Israel because Israel gave us Jesus. Israel gave us the scriptures. So the devil has a vendetta against Israel. So we as God's people need to keep showing gratitude and thankfulness to the people that God chose. We didn't choose them. God chose them to give us his word. God chose that unique culture to ultimately give us Jesus. And so we need to show gratitude. And so it's just to invest, to sow, to bless Israel. There's a promise attached to it. God will bless those who bless Israel. And so I want the blessing of God on our church, number one. I want the blessing of God on what we do. So I'm going to bless what God says to bless. And so, of course, my senior pastor has been trying to get me to go with him to Israel for a long time. And we're planning on taking a trip to Israel as a church, hopefully in the next year or so.
Can I go?
No, but sure, you can come, I don't care. But the point is, he's building this trauma center, and because I have all the confidence in the world in him and know what he does, it was the most practical step for us to take to not have to try to create something, but just to not, I don't want to have to reinvent the wheel there. He's doing it, and so we can support him as he does that.
Yeah. So of course, during the pandemic and some of the racial tension that was happening in America, we kind of kicked off a unified Cincy. What is that, and why again do you feel like that's important?
Well, first of all, Unified Cincy, the title is kind of a placeholder for us. It was an event where we knew we wanted to pull the church together and pray. We didn't want the church to be absent during a national crisis. Riots were happening in our streets, and the church was nowhere to be found. And so we found a way to be there for the police department, and we found a way to be there for those who were hurting by some of the injustices in the wake of the George Floyd murder. Of course, it's been politicized, and we could go into all that, but there is a real history there. There's real wounds that are there. And so Unified Now was something where we just wanted to say, we wanted to step into that space and say, what can we do practically? I can't do anything about history. I can't do anything about even a lot of the systems, but I can practically do something. And so we started to meet with several pastors around the city of Cincinnati, a lot of really established black pastors, and came up with initiatives. So we came up with what they call the 7 Ps. They asked me to take over the policing one. So at this point, Seven Hills has been spearheading that part of it. So we went to them, said, what can we do to help? And so one of the things that came up was the mental health issues of police officers, and that they can't go through the normal protocols without it going in their file. So if they have a traumatic experience and they go through the normal channels of getting help, they keep them from getting a promotion. They could lose their job, be deemed unfit. And so a lot of times police officers just suffer in silence. And so this app was designed, it's designed by Cortico, a company, and it's an expensive app, costs $40,000 a year, and Seven Hills committed to pay for the first 3 years of Cincinnati PD's app, and wrote the check right away, like, yes, we want to do that. So this app allows them to anonymously get professional help in any area they're struggling.
And through a lot of those efforts, correct me if I'm wrong, Cincinnati Police Department named us Community Partner of the Year.
They did.
It's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Pretty unbelievable.
We have a really good relationship there with Captain Isaacs, Captain Saunders, our Chief Isaacs, excuse me. I think I said that wrong earlier. And Captain Saunders, incredible people. Yeah, so we look forward to a long relationship there too.
Yeah. And then, I was looking at actually the numbers this morning. Over 60% of our staff came from the internship program. So why do you feel like it's important that we focus on our internship program and providing a place for those guys and those girls?
Most of my problems as a pastor have come through hiring wrong. And a lot of times that wrong hires came from people that didn't grow up. Their life was not changed within the church. So we just set out to start our internship. We set out to do that. It's our goal to hire from within. It's our goal to provide the training. Sometimes you could hire somebody that's way more gifted, has got way more exposure, has got a resume of way more accomplishments, and it does slow you down sometimes. But it also gives you the peace that you've got heart.
Yeah.
And we can work on the competence side over time.
And when you talked about some of the importance of our internship program and raising people from within, last year, we set out to renovate the guys' house, and then what happened with the girls' house?
Well, we knew we wanted to renovate the guys' house, and we did that.
Yep.
But the girls, the young women, we planned on doing this next year. Maybe buy some kind of makeshift house, but a woman in the church, actually a relatively new woman, new family that's been coming, just awesome family, has a house in Newport. It's a historical home. It's a $650,000 to $700,000 home. And she came to me and she says that God told her to give this for the raising up of young women, women who wanted to be ministers or to serve God with their life. And so now they have a home that's just spectacular, gorgeous. Now this is already fully functional and the guys' stuff's going. Now we need to figure out the next guys and girls' home.
Yep.
So we can keep expanding as God leads people to that program.
And we're actually in that girls' home right now.
We are. We're in the kitchen. We're in this beautiful kitchen.
My last question would be we talk about, there's a lot of amazing things here, a lot of amazing initiatives. Why would we do more?
Well, I've always kind of had this attitude that if God's done and he just wants us to hold ground and be comfortable, then why don't you just kill me and take me to heaven? If this is it, right? Why are we even here? I know it's an old, funny thing, but if we are supposed to just die and go to heaven, then he should have drowned us at baptism, right? Just hold us under, wait until we drown, and then, we send another one to heaven. But there's something to be accomplished here on the earth. Acts says he chooses the times and the places we dwell. So he chose us. This is our time on the earth.
Wow.
This is our place. This is the geographical area we've been assigned. And so now that that's been said, there's an assignment. And there are people attached to that assignment. And all the resources God's given us, we're ultimately going to answer for how did we win souls with that? How did we continue to reach more people with that? And to me, to whom much has been given, much is required. And so, I'm deeply convicted that you don't ever stop. You don't ever pull back. If you do it right, when you're at my funeral and I'm done, the vision's just getting started.
Wow.
And so our hope is to set up future generations to continue to be a light, be an influence. Again, we're not trying to be a big, bad, look at us church. But we want to make a big bad dent in hell. We want to make a major difference in our community for Christ. And it's God's trusted us, right? What did Mordecai say? To Esther, if you don't do it, then salvation, God's going to raise somebody up from somewhere else.
Wow.
And so, we have a chance here
Yeah.
to do it. And God can use somebody else, but He doesn't have to.
Wow.
He can, consider Seven Hills. We're at His beck and call. What does He want us to do? Let's go.
Wow.
Well, incredible. What a great year. What a great year. God has been so good, and to Him we give all the glory. And of course, I want to take a minute and just say, looking back at this past year, I can't help but honor you as well. Your faith, your prayers, your courage has been absolutely outstanding. It's been an honor to do it with you. If you've got your Bibles, you can turn with me to Exodus chapter 28. Exodus chapter 28. And what you just saw was what we have accomplished. In just a minute, I'm going to throw out some things that we want to do in 2022. And so what we would like to take a second and show you just how this happens, how this works. We'll explain to you that anytime we do a vision weekend, we're not rehashing things that we're already doing. We're going to present some brand new things that we want to do, and we'll show you how we pull these things off. And so these next few minutes are going to be, hopefully today has been somewhat inspirational. That's the goal today, to be inspirational. Just to remind you that you really are making a massive difference. That's not talk, that just is that is what we do. It is what we do. Number two, it is going to have to be informational, because there is a part of this that is practical, and then there's going to be some instruction as well, so it'll be instructional. And the reason I want to say that is because no matter how many times we tell people what we're going to do and how they can do it, we still get people saying, what do I do? How do I do it? So we're going to try to be, once again, it may seem redundant, but we're going to be instructional for those who haven't been around Seven Hills for any time at all. And then finally, it'll be impartational, meaning we do believe there is an impartation of what God is doing here that can get inside of your heart and get inside of your spirit. And we hope that happens as well. And so practically speaking, what we want to do is we're going to show you this first slide. This shows you how 2020 investments occurred, shows you approximately what everything cost, what the total investment was. This is what we took in last year, our Heart for the House offering. For those of you who do not know, the second weekend in December, every year we do what we call a year-end or best gift offering. That is for people that desire to do so, to give above and beyond their normal tithe. The tithe is God's, it's holy, it belongs to Him. We don't touch that. Then there's the offering, that's what we do above that. You can do whatever you want to. The tithe goes to the storehouse, the place where you're fed spiritually. Above that's the offering. You can do whatever you want to do with that and be in God's perfect will. You can give that to a radio station, you can give that to a missionary, you can do whatever you want to do with that. But what we like to do is give you the option when it comes to your above and beyond, above your normal tithe. These are some things that we could pull off together. So you're not giving to us as much as you're giving through us to pull these things off. So last year, we set out during Vision Weekend, these are the things we said we wanted to do. And so you can see them up there real quick, the Cincinnati location, Save the Storks, Prison Ministry, all those things, and you can see what we spent on those things. You can see what came in last year. Our year-end offering was our largest ever in history. And so as I begin to show some of the new things, we always like to encourage people to pray about at least doing what they've done before. Sarah and I, because you'll see, we're kind of throwing out some big ones this year, bigger than normal. If that's not big, these are big ones, so just prepare your heart for some big stuff. And so we're going larger than we did last year, but at least that would be amazing. We're not asking you to do that. Just as you seek God, that just gives you a reference point. So then, of course, we invested general fund resources to push all these things over the edge. Now, the next thing I want you to see is this. So go to the next thing, because a lot of times when we bring up new initiatives, people maybe don't understand that these are not things that we're planning on doing because of poor stewardship. These are not things that we're planning on doing because we don't know how to handle what we already have. The truth is, and you'll see in just a second, whenever we present a new initiative, all Heart for the House does is accelerate it happening. It pushes the gas pedal. It shortens the time span between the idea and the execution of the idea. So for example, any of those new ideas that you saw, they would have all happened, but they wouldn't be done today. Make sense? They would still be in motion. They would still be happening. Maybe one or two of them would be going on, but all of them would not have been executed. So when we present the ideas, we have to live in the reality that once it's executed, it has to move into operations. So it has to move into now this is something that happens all the time. Cincinnati, for example, it says it's in the investment phase. What that means is that you spent closer to $1 million on Cincinnati, by the way. That was just the upfront cost. But now Cincinnati costs about $500,000 a year to staff it and all the leases and different things that occur there. And so, so that's now in operations. So every single year inside the budget, there's that line item that's there for Cincinnati. And every single thing that we do, mobile pregnancy unit, that's not just pay for the bus. Now you have a staff, you have a team, there's a lot of legalities to all of it. It's a sophisticated operation that now we run inside of our operations. So why am I saying that? I'm saying that if you never decide to be a part of Heart for the House, our year-end best gift above and beyond offering, if you never decide to do that, can I just say, you're already making all of these things happen. When you honor God with the tithe, you make these things happen. So don't romanticize Heart for the House and think, oh, well, I want to be a part of that. They're not bringing up all the other things that we already do. And all those other things, there's going to be some time in front of it. Like you guys didn't hear anything today about Trafficking Hope, rescuing girls that are caught up in sex trafficking. You didn't hear anything today about Open Hands Global, which is building community centers in Pakistan and educating, now I think it's in the close to 100 or more children in Pakistan that can go and get educated. It's spectacular. When I say spectacular, it's spectacular, but you're a part of that. Now that's just in operations. It used to be Heart for the House. Now it's just who we are. It's what we do. And I could go through all of them. I'm not going to. Reach International, planting churches all over Indochina. Association of Related Churches, Link. You gave $85,000 to plant churches here in America last year. All kinds of cool stuff you do all the time. We're not talking about that today. We're just talking about what we did that set out to do this last year, and we pulled it off and we paid for it. So now when I talk about this year's stuff, this is the entrepreneur piece of what we want to do. These are some new things that we want to make happen. And there's always this question, well, what happens if the Heart for the House offering isn't enough to cover those things? Then we prioritize it and we do as much as you desire for us to do. So we go as fast or as slow as you want us to. There's zero pressure on me. There's zero pressure on you. Whatever God wants, the speed God wants us to go at, and the speed you want us to go at, we go at that speed. So I almost always tell the church, it's funny now, it's kind of a joke, but I mean it when I say this. If you want to go slow, I'm good. I'm good. I don't need nothing else on my plate. I don't need no more work to do. I don't need any more challenges. I'm perfectly content as is. However, I do feel like that. I've been in the book of Isaiah I actually finished it last night, but the whole idea of you get out into the ankle deep water, and then you get into the knee deep water, and then it's the waist deep, and then you get out over your head, right, where the current begins to take you, and you have to try to, you're trying to flap to keep your head up. That's where we're at, by the way. So we're out in the deep with these things. All right, so Exodus chapter 28, verse 15, it says, fashion a breastpiece for making decisions. I love the imagery here. If you want to know how to make a decision, God said, I want you to fashion a breastpiece, and I'm going to show you how to make decisions. Then drop down to verse number 29. Whenever Aaron enters the holy place, he will bear the names of the sons of Israel over his heart on the breastpiece of decision. So we're going to kind of encourage you today as you hear some of these initiatives to kind of build your breastpiece, right? To put these things over your heart. The things that we're going to talk about, put them over your heart. And then what do you do with it? You continue to bring these things up as a memorial before the Lord. As you go before God, you bring these things up in your prayer time, in your prayer place, as you seek God, you bring some of these things up. Also put Urim and Thummim in the breastpiece so they may be over Aaron's heart. Those were stones that would light up. So whenever he entered the presence of God, Aaron will always bear the means for making decisions for Israel over his heart before the Lord. So real quickly, before we go on to new things, this is how God instructed the children of Israel to do it. Make this breastpiece, it's for making decisions. And you put these decisions over your heart. Maybe it's a decision on what battle to go to. Maybe it's what enemy to fight. Maybe it's a timing decision. Maybe it's a directional decision. But whatever the decision is, put the name of that on this breastpiece. And then whenever you go into the presence of God, you're bringing up these things. These things are over your heart, right? You're not sure what to do. You're not sure what God's saying. It's just it's close to your heart. You're not 100% on, am I going to do this or am I going to do that? Am I going this way or am I going that way? But you're just keeping it close to your heart. And there in time, as you bring that to God, as you go into his presence and you bring some of these things before the Lord, he'll light up some of the things in your heart. So, for example, you might have heard that we were not planning on doing the Stork Bus this year. We were planning on presenting that to you. We said something about it last year, kind of off the cuff, like it was kind of like a little side comment. And someone heard it and they came and said, well, how much is it? And basically you heard what happened. So we had someone, what we would call leapfrog all the other ideas to make that happen. Was not in our mind to make it happen. But God spoke to that person. He lit up those stones in their heart, lit it up. The Bible says we walk in the light that we've been given. So boom, God lit up his heart when it came to those things, and we pulled the trigger on it. A young lady was sitting in the service, heard about the intern thing for the girls. That lit up in her heart, and what did she leapfrog? We were not planning on doing that. So again, this is where you have to think about, again, I'm not asking you to do those things. What I'm saying is God will light your heart up as you hear some of these new ideas, and then take those things before God. And for most of us, he'll give us some way that we can help push that forward. He'll give us a number. Sarah and I are given a number every year, and we do our best to pull that off. We make whatever arrangements and sacrifices to give our best gift in December. So let's look at some of the new initiatives together, and hopefully your heart will light up with some of these things. Cincinnati headquarters, this is for those who are in Cincinnati. We're in the school now, but we're gonna open up an office space. This will be a place where, of course, they can have daily, the team can have an office space. where you can come and meet with them, but it's also going to be a place where they can have discipleship classes, leadership classes throughout the week. It's also going to be a place for our young people to gather on Wednesday nights. And then at this point, we transport that campus to this campus because we have this just incredible, to us, youth service. And we instead of trying to recreate that, we are bringing them to this particular campus. And we plan on doing that for the foreseeable future. We're probably not going to actually start a separate youth service at any campus until they reach the thousands. So, and there's reasons for that because of the quality that we can provide for them in the way that we do it. So that's what that will provide, will be kind of this all-inclusive place, and we'll just start stepping into just driving a stake in that city of Anderson again. Next, there's going to be an operations. This is the informational stage. This is not exciting. Operations center. This is where all of the campuses, so we have these tractor trailers with the church that's in these tractor trailers. So we need a place to store that. We need a place to store the historic bus. We need a place to operate out of with all of this stuff. I'm not gonna go into the nitty gritties of it, but a lot of our outreach now, we have to set up in the lobby, bring forklifts in, turn that kind of into a warehouse seasonally. But we're going to try to find another way to do that and create some type of operations center. This is going to help us run more efficiently. It's going to help us preserve and protect the investment that we're making in some of this stuff. The tractor trailers, for example, some of the stuff needs to be in a temperature controlled storage place, and we don't have that right now. So we need to try to step up into that this year. The next thing that we're going to try to do is whenever we open a campus, we're going to also buy a charter bus for the young people of that campus. So we are buying a charter bus for Cincinnati's campus, and they've actually already got that in the works, and that should be happening in January. So we want a nice bus. The seats will be able to face each other. If you ever remember as a kid going to youth camp or something like that, and you had your testimony time on your way back home. So we're gonna have our small groups on the bus to and from the campus pickup spots. And so that's something we're going to do. And somebody said, well, that seems like that's a lot, to do that with young people. And I'll answer that in just a minute, but let's just be really clear that it's a very efficient way to do that. Next thing that we've got is location number 3, Walton and Verona. So we're gonna open up a brand new church campus in Walton, Verona area. And more than likely, this will be fall of 2022. We wanted to get there by the spring, but it doesn't look like we're ready internally. We have everything we need, just we're waiting for some leadership stuff to come together. So, but you'll probably, maybe Q2 of 2022, if you want to be a part of that, you'll start hearing from us on that. And we're really excited about that happening. Next, we have a prison location. Remember, whenever we open up a new location, we're gonna open up a location in a prison. This last year, because of COVID, we did the app. This next year, we hope to actually open up a real physical church inside of a prison. And we have the prisons that we think are gonna open up, but they're not open as of today. But we have first dibs on several of them, by the way. And so hopefully, as we open up a campus, it's our heart to go ahead and do that as well. So that's pretty awesome. You've heard a lot about that today. Next, there's also, you know what, let's do this. I'm gonna go ahead and do this. One of the most inspirational stories in our church is from a guy that God got a hold of his heart in prison. And before I go to the next initiative, I want you to hear his story, and I'll be back in a minute.
This is where I was born and raised, and eventually got into gang activity at a young age. 14 years old is when I started getting attracted to that type of lifestyle. You could probably pull in.
This apartment right here?
Yeah. This is actually where I got beat in at. This is where it happened.
This is where you got beat down?
This is where I got beat down.
So they asked you to be part of the gang right here?
Right here. We was actually in this apartment where they sat me down and they asked me what was my reasoning for wanting to join the gang. Because they wanted to, I told them that I just wanted to be a part of a family.
Wow. So this is part of you becoming a gang member?
Correct.
Was the actual gang members beating you up?
That was your first sign of love.
Wow.
In gang mentality. They showed your first sign of love by testing your toughness and beating you up.
So you went from sitting in a room in here saying, I want to be part of a family, and joining a gang, and them bringing you out here and beating you up to be a part of that family.
Correct.
Wow. This is where your friend was shot?
This is where he was shot.
Right here?
Right here on the street, yeah. Parked. They had set him up. They had told him that they had a meeting and they wanted to talk to him about some stuff. He was only 18 years old. He had the exact same desire that I had to be a part of a family, but it ultimately led to him getting killed. I mean, the same people that you interact with every day, your friends, your brothers, your sisters, only to be told that we're having a meeting that you're invited to. He never even seen it coming. And right then and there, they shot and killed him. Within the first year of my jail sentence, my bond was at over $1 million, just about. And I realized that there's no getting out of this, which I knew that sooner or later that was gonna be my destiny, being in the gang.
Yeah.
And I had prayed out to God one day. All of my gang brothers and sisters had left me. I was lost for identity because everything I had dedicated my life to at that point had turned their back on me.
Yeah.
So I felt like I needed to venture out and just see what Christianity was all about. I figured that if God was real, that he would direct my steps no matter where I started.
Yeah.
And it was always something more miraculous when it came to the name of Jesus. I just prayed to God. It was kind of a scoffing prayer because I wasn't really sure how I stood on the belief of God. I'd never seen him, I never experienced him, so it was just a foreign idea.
Yeah.
But I prayed and I was like, God, if you're real, then you're the only one that's gonna get me out of this. Nothing evidence-wise is going to get me out of this, because they had all the evidence. They had 26 witnesses, they had all my co-defendants.
26 witnesses that had saw you shoot those 3 people?
Correct.
Wow.
After 2 years, what ended up happening when my lawyer finally talked to me, I had only seen him twice the whole time I was locked up. He came to me with a plea agreement that they was gonna drop every single charge except for one count of intent to kill. That was the defining moment. Having all of my charges dropped, even though I was guilty of every single charge. I reflected on the prayer that I had originally said when I first got locked up. And that was my moment. I just realized, okay, he did hear my prayer. It took 2 years for it to get answered, but he heard it. So then from there, I just knew that I couldn't let up on this.
So you got saved in prison.
Yes.
Wow.
So then it was just about learning how to be just as loyal to my faith that I was in the gang. I felt like I needed to approach my walk just as aggressively, especially since I was given a second chance to come out here. I didn't want to not be loyal to that, since I had at that moment seen so much.
Yeah. And so then you finished your sentence. Your mom, you and your mom moved up to Burlington after prison, and somebody invited you to Seven Hills.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. Which led to a small group. And
Which led to a small group.
Which led to a small group. And that led to my core group. Even though we're not a small group any longer, that was years ago, but we've kept contact with each other all throughout the years. And they've pretty much been my main group.
Wow. Wow. That's unbelievable. And now you serve every weekend.
I try to.
That's so inspiring, man. So cool.
So we're believing to do another campus, prison campus in 2022. Also, real quick, these are the larger ones, and I'll pull all this together at the end. I've got a couple things I'm gonna do, and then we're gonna wrap it all together. So they won't make a ton of sense up front, but I don't wanna over-inform you because there's a clip that we're gonna play that will give you a lot of data. So instead of me giving you that, I'm just gonna let the clip explain some of these things. But the second thing we want to do is what's called a No Hope ranch. We want to do a ranch. And this will be finding, I don't know how much, 100-ish acres somewhere within 45 minutes or so. I guess we could maybe go out a little bit further than that, but close enough that whoever, when we set up these homes, it'll be primarily the first home will be for women that are struggling with addiction and need to go to a place to recover. And we want to do it right. We want to do it high class. So that's why we want to do a ranch. We want these families to be able to pull onto this ranch, get away from life in the world. I guess you can't require people to stay in these by law, so they can leave whenever they would like. So that's why they're more effective if you can get out away from the population and society. And so we want them to pull onto a ranch where there's lakes, where there's horses, where it's somewhat operational, meaning it can in some way sustain itself, be farmed, and we're looking at all those ideas. We're putting the business plan together, the concept together. So our goal this next year, at a minimum, would be to put all the plans together, all the first design the first home, what that would look like. And we're also actively looking for that property. And that property will be given to the No Hope Ranch idea of having a place where we can build homes for those who are struggling with addiction. It's where they can go. And then the great thing is it's also a place, God forbid, you would ever have someone in your world that's affected by that. You could know that there's not just a high quality place that they could go, but a place that, of course, is all about making sure people are right with Jesus is going on as well. So we're working on that. That's something that we would like to do this next year. Somebody said, well, how are we going to do that? I don't know. Are we going to do that? I don't know. We decide that the second week in December. We decide what we're going to do, how fast we're going to get there, or when we're going to get there. Again, the speed is up to you. And then the final initiative is it's 10,000 young people in 10 different cities. And because I don't want to tell any more details about that, because I'm going to have my pastor, who's been my pastor, I was his youth pastor before in the early 2000s, I guess it was. And I've talked to him almost every Saturday now for 20 years. And he's never asked me to come and talk to the church. He's come twice in 17 years. One of those was for our grand opening. I've begged him to come a million times, and he just says, send a letter to my assistant, and that letter always ends up, in the trash with the other 1,000 invites he gets. He gets about 100 invitations a day. So he goes where he can, and so he's never wanted to come. He's done it because I begged him. But it's not that he doesn't love the church and love us and all that. It's just he's got other things to do. But God woke him up and said, I want you to go to Seven Hills. And so we had a dinner that he was able to come to. He couldn't make it on a weekend, but he was able to come to that dinner that we already had scheduled. It was a last minute thing for him. He came to it. And these are a few things that he said. And these are why some of these initiatives that we're doing, why we're doing them. And I'm going to show you how big this last thing really is. And I'll be back at the end of this. So check it out.
And I woke up in the middle of the night at about 3:30, just as awake as I am now. And I heard the Lord say to me, if Nebuchadnezzar could target 10,000 young people for the devil and Babylon, could I trust you to go after 10,000 young people in 10 cities? And I don't need another thing to do, but the Lord told me, he said, I want you, and he just started laying it out. He said, I want you to target 10,000 in 10 cities. I want you to go to 10 cities. I want you to rent auditoriums that can hold 10,000 or more. I want you to do them free. And I'm not here to ask you for anything from me. I've got the money in the bank to do it. God has already supplied it. So this isn't about me, but you play a part in what God's about to do here. And I'm going to tell you why. I knew it would take 15 million or more to do this because we do a large conference every year. I know what it costs to do, to reach. And then you're talking about 10 times that. And the Lord has already supplied it. It's sitting in there. I can do it for free. He said, get the great bands, get the great worship teams, bring them in. And then he said, told me who to get, Reggie Dabbs. He and I have started Forward Conference together, and he's been with us every year at Forward Conference, our big youth conference. Get Reggie Dabbs. And the Lord said, get Marcus Mecum. Have them come in and speak and preach. 10,000 young people in 10 different cities. And oh, by the way, after you do that, I want you to build 10 no hope addiction and counseling centers. What do you mean no hope? Not N-O hope, but K-N-O-W hope centers. And build rehabs, because this generation needs to get clean and get them off of drugs, off of alcohol, get their minds right, spirit, soul, and body. Then your pastor messed me up. And I mean, it's so evident in that sermon that there's a slaughter going on for babies in every one of the 3 times this comes up. And your pastor brings up in a conversation about stork. I said, what is stork? He said, it's buses that go into, so now I've added 10 buses that we're going to go after 10,000 babies. Oh! And that's your fault. That's your vision. That's your part. And one of those cities is going to be this city. I believe we're going to see God reach young people like never before. I just need somebody to raise your hands and say, Lord, I believe it, I believe it, I believe it, I believe it, I believe it. Why don't we dream big? Why don't we ask big? Some of you, 10,000. Yeah, 10,000. These are the last days. You know, the rapture's about to take place. We need to ask big. Sons and daughters will prophesy. Turn to 3 people and say 10,000, 10,000, 10,000. This church can reach 10,000. But so help me God, I've never done this in my life, in my ministry. But if the Lord ever spoke to me, see, I know where you're at as a church because we've been there. And what is about to happen next will astound and astonish all of you, because this is God's doings and it's beautiful in our eyes. But I see a hand up under this ministry doing this. And there's a cross that comes with that. But we're about to see the greatest harvest, and you and I in this church and your pastors and ministries, we don't care who gets the glory. As a matter of fact, I just feel like I'm kind of setting it up, and I'm gonna get it up and going, and I wouldn't be surprised at what God wants to do in the future. We gotta quit building our own stuff, and we gotta learn how to pass batons. And this guy's been running with me for 20 years. I want you to take the next 15 seconds and I want you to clap your hands and I want you to lift your voice and I want you to shout unto God with the voice of triumph. I believe you're going to set captives and addicts free like never before. God's going to raise up ministries that loose captives through this church.
Well, so the No Hope Center and the 10,000 and 10 cities, of course, that includes here. We're going to create a model for the No Hope Center that will be used to build these in other cities around our country as well. And then we're going to start buying these stork buses. We actually already ordered 2 more. Of course, my pastor's floating that bill. But what I am going to say is we won't let him come to our city. We won't let him involve us and let him just pay that bill. We're going to find a way, though we can't give 10 million to make that happen. We'll do what we can do to let him know we've got skin in the game, because we want to be a part of it. Amen, we really do. We want to be a part of it. And God will have to do some big things.